Where would you rank a hacker on this tier list? Whoa. Were you seriously considering anything but F tier? How the f? Hello and welcome to the Lethal Company Teammate Tier List Part 2. Whether I missed some key teammates that you've all played with besides me, something called the friend, never heard of it, or you thought my ranking for certain teammates were wrong, today we're going to rank some more teammates and update some old ones. I'm currently doing a run where I'll make sure I'm beating the subscriber count on this channel. Once I lose or I can't beat the subscriber count anymore, I'll be doing a giveaway in my Discord. So if you enjoy the content or you hate it and you want me to suffer, or even better, you want more scrap to spawn, go ahead and subscribe. First up on this list and going into D tier is the early leaver. The early leaver leaves without you and is a nervous player. Imagine it's roughly 5 PM and you're deep within the building with a massive amount of scrap. The screen suddenly cuts to the ship leaving. The early leaver got scared and decided to leave. This player never checks to see if anyone else is alive and is typically a newer player that doesn't know how to check the screens. And if anything scary happens near the ship, they are out of there. The first time it's funny, but any time after that, it's just plain annoying. D tier. Next up, and going into C tier, purely because of how funny it is sometimes, is the bad weatherman. Do you like playing in flooded weather or lightning that'll one-shot you? Then you want the weatherman on your team. This player never checks the weather before landing. Good luck even getting out the front door. These players become especially bad when you get to later moons like Titan, where something like bad weather can make the run unplayable. These players never check the weather and are too keen to land. C tier. Next up, and going into B tier, is the beekeeper. Maybe they just love the bee movie, or maybe they are scared of going into the building. But regardless, these players are obsessed with grabbing beehives. Don't even bother looking for them in the building because they are too busy collecting bees. Maybe they put too many attempts into learning how to collect it solo, but these players are always running off in the opposite direction of the building, searching for some bees. If they know what they're doing, they can bring in a ton of extra scrap, which is why I rank them in B tier. But if they don't know what they're doing, you end up with a dead player at the start of every lobby. B tier. Next up, and going into B tier, is the meat shield. This person is the first person in. They're the entry fragger of Lethal Company. They always go in first and they're always first to die as well. As a player that likes to stay alive, these players are the best to play with. They're willing to go in first and they're willing to check different corridors or make a clear path for everyone to go. They're also a very brave player. The only downside of a player like this is sometimes they go too far. Sometimes there is just a reason to back off, but they'll go in anyway. While this does go for some funny moments, sometimes they end up dying way too early on. B tier. Now last video, I decided to create a teammate called the Troll, but as many of you mentioned in my comments that there's lots of different types of troll, and this next one is going in the D tier, and this is the PvP only teammate. This player will chase you around with a shovel and will tap you here and there or sometimes kill somebody, and honestly sometimes it's really funny, but then other times it just gets annoying. The best strategy for playing with these players is to get a shotgun. Too easy. Next up, and the first contender for S tier but going in the A tier, is the soundboard teammate. These teammates are absolutely hilarious to play with, but it depends on the music they're playing and it depends on how often they play it and when they play it. Some of these players will play really funny music, while on the flip side, some will be playing some of the new music they've made and blaring it at full volume for the entire duration of the game. Depending on the music they play can be the difference between them going into S tier or even down to something like D tier. But for the most part, these players are fun to play with and add a bit of comedic relief. In the last video, one of you guys commented saying that there's a player called the Hunter, and I completely agree. Do these players even realize that we are collecting scrap? Some of them run in there and all they want to do is find the monsters and find the guns and the turrets and all that stuff, which is quite fun. But I put them in B tier purely because of the fact that they don't actually help get to higher quotas. Yes, they do sometimes take out monsters and make it easier to collect stuff. When you get to something like Titan, they don't really help. They end up just staying away from the scrap and putting time into something that we don't need. Next up is the jack of all trades. This is the pro player, but it's weird, slightly less athletic younger brother. This is a pro that can do it all, but is a lot worse. These players are great to have because they can fill any role in a team. If you need them in the chair, they can do it. If they need to be going in first and make sure everything's safe, they can do it. These players consistently get good amounts of scrap and are good teammates to have, but they're not especially good in anything. But honestly, for a game like this, that's not that bad. B tier. The first teammate on this list to go into S tier is the hero. The hero is willing to die looking at the coil head deep within the building. they're willing to make the sacrifice. If you get a snare flea on your head deep in the building, guess what? They're there ready to save you. These players are a team player, but an exceptional team player. They make sure everyone stays alive and they make sure you get the scrap count. S tier. Next up and going into C tier is the mechanic. This player is spending all their upgrades on the ship, and I'm not talking like the decorator. The decorator, honestly, I don't mind. After seeing all your comments, I actually changed my mind. I think the decorator is a lot better. There's a lot of you that said you were them, and I think it is fun to decorate the ship. I do it as well, let's be honest. But the mechanic, they spend all the money on the upgrades, even if they're not using it. And I'm talking about the foghorn. They spend more time trying to get this team to have a strategy for the different upgrades, such as the foghorn, when they could just be spending that time in the building. They might stand there holding on the foghorn and trying to get all the players to use it, but reality is no one really cares. While I did slightly cover this player in the intro, I feel like the hacker is worth covering. I put them in the F tier, and I truly think this player is really shit to play with. However, here we go, unpopular opinion. Sometimes, and especially if you're watching the gameplay in the background, when I was on a server with a bunch of random players, they put us instantly onto Titan. This was fun. I won't lie, it was fun. It did take some of the significance out of the game because we just spawned on the top moon and it didn't really matter about the quota because we've already cheated. Once you cheat, it doesn't matter. But I think there are some instances where having a hacker in your team can create a fun experience, maybe for the first time or maybe the second time, but afterwards that it is not fun at all. These players tend to go around ruining servers, and I've heard heaps of people having negative experience. So for that sake, I am going to keep them in the F tier. But I think the first or second time you come across them, it can be quite interesting to see what happens. Next up is Dora the Explorer minus the map. This player needs a map and is going straight to D tier. They cannot find the entrance no matter what. And you best believe, even if they get inside, there's no way they're finding the exit. These players somehow always find the quicksand as well. I've seen them walking around looking for the entrance. Everyone runs off in one direction towards the entrance and they walk off in the other. They end up on the far parts of the map outside, trying to scale mountains or getting lost in the water. It's funny when it's new players because they don't know, but some players seriously struggle to find the entrance. D tier. Next up and going into A tier is the clutch or kick player. This player will save the run. It could be 11 o'clock at night. You need 500 more scrap to pass quota. You're on your final day and they somehow manage to get in there and get back and keep the run alive. Depending on how high your quota is when they save the run, depends on where I rank them on the list, but most of the time it's A tier. As long as they're providing enough stuff before the clutch, they're not just waiting for the hype moment, these players are great to have on your team and they go in A tier. Now, to quickly cover some of the people I covered last episode, but to change their tiers. I truly believe that a lot of you thought the decorator should rank high, and as I said before, I totally agree. Decorating the ship is fun, so I think the decorator deserves to move up a tier. On top of that as well, I think the modder also is really good. As you can see in the background, here's me trying out modded gameplay for the first time with a bunch of random players, and honestly, it's a ton of fun. I've done mods before, but most of the times it's gone wrong. And with how easy it is to get mods in this game, having people showing you new mods is pretty cool. So the modder also moves up. Honestly, I hope you enjoyed this style of video. If enough people will think of other different types of characters and teammates, I'll make a part 3 and I'll maybe even update the list as well. But thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you liked the video and catch you in the next one. Cheers everyone.